Welcome back, everyone. We've reached the end of this project. Can you believe it's been 6 weeks? Today I'll finish up by binding all the pages together. Just look at this pile. It makes me so happy. I've shared the making process of most of these pages in former videos. There are a few new ones, but I used basically the same techniques. You can have a look at all of the pages in the flip-through video or in my blog. Both are linked below. Okay, let's get this pile of pages bound. I started by making the inner spine, where all the pages will be connected. I cut a strip of paper to the height of the journal and stained it, so it would fit with the vintage vibe of the pages. I'm going to use a die for the cutting. It's a Tonic Studios die, part of their memory book line that is meant for making albums and such. This one is for making a spine with a simple fold. I'll show you in a bit, but first I'm going to cut this. So I've cut 3 pieces with the die, and you can see that aside from cutting, the die makes these fold lines in the paper. Here's a closer look. Now I'll just follow the lines, fold and then reinforce with a bone folder. It makes the fold stronger and also helps straightening it. The folding starts like an accordion fold, going back and forth, and you can see that we get this raised flap. This will be the page hinge, where the ready pages will be connected, one from each side. If it's not clear at the moment, it will be once you'll see it done. I continued folding the piece to get 2 more raised flaps, so each piece gives us 3 flaps, or 3 pages. We can easily attach them for a wider book, and I'll show you that in a minute, but first we need to finish these hinges by adding some strong adhesive to the grooves in the back and glue them shut. I did that with all 3 pieces and let them dry a bit. When all the spine pieces were dry, I connected them by adding adhesive to one piece and then just slide another spine piece on top, right up to the raised hinge flap. The pieces fit together perfectly because the spaces between the raised flaps are identical. And this is one of the biggest reasons that I use a die. You could measure and fold this kind of spine quite easily using your ruler or a scoreboard, but it would require a lot more time and a whole lot of measuring, and personally I am all for reduction of measuring and shortening cutting time, so this die is really a lifesaver for me. Now we're ready to connect the pages. To make it easier, I flatten all the hinge flaps aside from the one I'm working on. Then I add glue to one side of the flap and adhere the page. I slide the page right to the bottom of the hinge, so right to my work surface, and check that it fits with the top and bottom of the spine. Then I lay it flat both ways, back and forth, to make sure that it adhered well and that the movement of the hinge is smooth. The second page is simply added to the back of the first, so it sandwiches the hinge flap and, of course, connects the 2 pages to one. I spread a good amount of glue all over the first page and carefully add the second page on top. And by the way, the brown frame that you've seen on the back of the first page is meant to cover for any inaccuracies in placing the pages. I try to put them exactly back to back, but it doesn't always work, and having a dark color at the edge helps. It makes sure that if I didn't get the pages matched perfectly, at least I won't have any white peeking through. The rest of the pages were connected the same way, so I finished it off camera, no need to bore you, and I'm moving on to adding the lining to the spine. You can see this is already starting to look like a book. I kind of squashed the pages together by folding the spaces between them in half. The spine lining helps to keep the pages compressed like this, and also gives that extra finishing touch in the end. I used the sticky back canvas that I cut to size and inked. It's a bit longer than the page height because I'm going to fold the top and bottom, so we'll have a pick of the color in the finished journal. After the folding, it will actually be a bit shorter than the pages. I distressed the edges because the journal is meant to look worn, and this suggests that maybe some pages are actually missing. When I was happy with it, I peeled off one side of the paper backing to reveal the sticky back and adhered it to the spine edge. I clipped the pages together to be sure that the book stays in the width that I want, and then I added some liquid glue to the back of the spine, just for good measure, and wrapped the lining around to the other side. And done! While this dries, we can make the cover. I used leather texture paper. There's a few brands out there with good leather texture paper, but for this project I chose Tim Holtz's paper because it's nice and thick and strong, and it's perfect for imitating a soft leather cover. I did the inking off camera because it took a while and inking isn't the focus of this video. When it was ready, I scored 2 lines to mark the spine location for easy folding and also because I wanted to add a foiled leaf to the front, and this helped me position it. To add the leaf, I'm using a stamp of a fern by Eddie Skinner. It's too big for this, so I'm using my favorite partial stamping tool, a marker. But this time I'm using the Heidi Swap toner ink marker because the foil reacts to the toner ink. I inked the part that I wanted and stamped, and now I just add a piece of foil and take it to the ink machine. And look at how gorgeous that looks! To finish the worn leather look, I sprayed the cover with Distress Resist spray, just here and there, to get a bit of shine. Where it's uneven like this, it really gives that worn, dull effect of old leather. Then I just folded along the score lines back and forth a couple of times. It's not necessary to reinforce the fold that much just for opening and closing the journal, but it does help in getting that used look. Finally, it's time to connect the cover to the book. I added glue to the cover, just in the spine fold, and carefully placed the gathered pages. I used quite a bit of glue because the lining is fabric and that tends to require a bit more glue than paper. I made sure everything is placed correctly and then set it aside to dry while I work on the inside cover. I cut 2 pieces of Ideology worn wallpapers to size and aged them with ink. I'm using Distress brush for this because it allows thinner layers and also does a great job in catching the texture of these papers. They have this beautiful textile texture. I yellowed the entire page, but made sure to add some darker stains here and there. To add the inner cover pieces, I spread glue on the inside cover and placed them carefully, making sure to tuck them beneath the edge of the lining. Normally, the inner cover actually hides the edges of the spine lining, but I wanted this to look torn, so I made sure that the lining edge is visible, with all the threads peeking out. I did the same thing on both sides of the journal, and that's it. Done! I hope you enjoyed this project. Please check out the flip-through video to see all the pages of the journal, and click the subscribe button so you won't miss my next project. It's a chiller. Till next time, thank you for watching.